Hey, welcome to the Cyber Savvy Woman, where women business owners reclaim their power in the digital world. We shatter the myth that cybersecurity is too complex to master and transform protection strategies into clear, actionable guidance. This is your digital empowerment sanctuary, where cyber fear becomes cyber confidence. Whether you're protecting client trust as a therapist or safeguarding financial data as an advisor, you'll hear from women founders who've conquered digital challenges and security experts who speak your language. Every woman leading a business deserves to feel unshakable in her digital decisions, no matter her technical background. Are you ready to stop letting cybersecurity intimidate you and start letting it elevate you? Here's your host, Rachele Schainker.
Welcome back to the Cyber Savvy Woman, the show where we make cybersecurity and technology feel practical, not intimidating. I'm Rachele Schainker, Silicon Valley technologist and founder of the award-winning managed service provider, CMIT Solutions of San Mateo. Today's guest is Dr. James Chitwood, Army veteran, performance operation consultant, and author of Leadership is Not Enough. James has spent decades building organizations, scaling teams, and operationalizing himself out of a job by creating systems that drive long-term performance. James, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Rachel. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, we had a great pre-show chat, so I'm looking forward to continuing our conversation.
Yeah, awesome.
But for our listeners, why don't you share a little bit about your background from your military, higher education, startup consulting? What is kind of the thread that pulls it all together for you, all your experiences?
Yeah, absolutely. I was a child of a single mother, 4 kids, mad respect for the single moms out there in this world, let me tell you. And I joined the Army because I had no direction in life and there was no money for college. And so it gave me 2 things, college fund money and direction and discipline and all the things you want the military to do. I married up and my wife was in education and she had an opportunity to go somewhere. And so I said, okay, I'll go. We'll go. Let's figure it out. And so I found myself in education. I was pursuing an MBA, and then I spent 15 years in the higher ed space, active administration, and then I went into the ed tech space. And that was really where I kept operationalizing myself out of a job. My wife coined that phrase, which is so perfect.
It's awesome. Yeah.
And she just kept saying to me, Jim, you keep operationalizing yourself out of a job. Why don't you start a consulting business and do it for yourself for once? And I didn't have an original thought. I couldn't do it. Like when I was pursuing my doctorate, the assessment tools that I used, the majority of my peers planned to become experts in those assessment tools. And then that's what they were going to consult with the rest of their life. That didn't interest me. It was just too me. I was going to say me too, but that's a whole different phrase these days. Not rightfully so, because it's just terrible all the way around. I've digressed. But I had to have an original thought. And so one day I was doing a lot of praying, a lot of thinking, a lot of soul searching, and finally had that aha moment. My military career, my career in the organizational world, and it all came together and crystallized into a thought. And that's what allowed me to write the book, Leadership is Not Enough, and go in consulting. And I'll just add an element here because the title is interesting for a person with a doctorate in organizational leadership, right? Like I went in there thinking it was all about the leader. I expected that to be the outcome, Rachel, because, I was a great leader and had all that hubris. And the results didn't show me that. I studied leadership's influence on job satisfaction and employee performance in a sales environment. And what I found was leadership mattered to the employee satisfaction, didn't really matter statistically to the performance of the team. Did it have a measurable variable? Yes. But was it statistically sound enough? No, it was not. And so it really took me aback. And then I had to dig deeper into it. And then as I did more research, as any good data person would do, right, dug further into it, the aha moment of the team environment in my data and in other data that I read proved that to be true.
Yeah, interesting. You do talk a lot about performance culture. How would you define that in plain terms for small business owners, or help us, define what performance culture means for us?
Performance culture is when every employee owns the outcome of the organization, right? When they take it personally, right? When they own it to the level that the business owner owns it. Right, because the business owner is that's why I was just talking to my client. I mean, he's the one at 11 o'clock at night, as you know, you're still working, you're still at it, right? And our comment was how difficult it was for him to get his job done during the day. But it's the concept of that ownership, right? That's what a performance culture is. People who own it to the same level as the founder.
As a leader, how would I instill that? Because I have a team of 8, and that is something I struggle with. I feel like there's some members of the team that don't necessarily own it, like, they kind of think, "Well, it's your business, it's your issue." And, I've heard from, like, HR people or other people that, well, it's your culture, it's your employee handbook. What would you say for a small business who is really wants to get that mindset on her team? Where would I I'll just speak for myself. Where would I start? What can I, like, level set to kind of, like, what's some, like, to kind of plant those seeds to get people to own their performance, if you will?
All right, so I'll first start at the high level, and then I'll break it really down into tactical. So I believe there are 4 core elements, and none of this is rocket science. It's just putting them together that makes it interesting. Number one is training. What is a training? How is it done? Number two, what is a recognition system? Right? How are you recognizing? How do peers have the ability to recognize peers? Something that doesn't often exist, right? Um, what is your accountability? Right? How is that broken down? Right? Do people know the key metric that they are measured against? Right? Do they all have tight goals? And how does that tie to both training and recognition? And then the thread that goes through it, which is where I'll come down to very tactical for you, is what is your internal communication strategy? Right? Organizations spend a lot of time thinking about their external communication strategy and not so much on their internal. So, my recommendation is to standardize the one on one. And every one on one needs to have 2 components. One component is quantitative performance analysis and must be discussed in every single meeting. And I don't believe the manager is the one who brings that data to the conversation. The employee must, so that they can own the conversation. They've had an opportunity to look at it, think about it, develop responses. See, because when the manager comes in and the employee hasn't seen it yet, then they're
Defensive.
it's just defensive. They're not ready. They're not prepared, right? Yeah. Yeah. So them bringing it in allows them to have already filled the gaps in their mind on what should be discussed and why, right? So that's half, that's quantitative. The other half is qualitative, and this is critical. It's the most important piece. It's often left off of the one on one, right? And this is all about who you are as a person. Why did you show up? Why are you here for a job? What's going on in your outside world? Is how does this job help you achieve what you're doing in the outside world? See, because when you can create that synergy, that symbiotic relationship between them pursuing their goals by pursuing the organization's goals, then they're no longer owning the goal for you. They're owning it for themselves. And that's different.
Yeah, yeah. And I think the piece too that when you said communication, because we have Slack, we have Teams, we have email, we have text messages. And so maybe I can tighten that up where, this type of conversation is in this channel, this type is here, and put some parameters around that. So, yeah, I appreciate
Absolutely. And another thing I'll add to that, Rachel, and I saw this when I came to the company I'm working with, all these different projects and all these different communications flowing through any channel on any one of those projects. So um, I worked with them to create automated workflows and to drive all communications related to a project into those workflows. So, project management tool. And so now what we've done is we've taken a lot of the conversations that can get easily lost, right? And centralized them to the project. Then we worked on email is primarily for external clients, Slack or Teams is primarily for internal. And we now have a running agenda. So whenever there's a topic, it goes into the agenda. And the beauty of that is what often happens is people have a thought. And so they just send it out, right? When in truth, they could probably wait 5 days.
Yeah, yeah, until you connect. Yeah.
Rome's not burning. And I'll tell you, when I created this entire structure for my client, The entire stress level just dropped because even he now knows, okay, I'm going to talk to Jim on Tuesdays. I'm going to put my stuff in there on Tuesdays. My team, because I'm working with the team there, they know, okay, I'm going to put it here on here. If it's not burning, there's no reason it can't wait 6 days.
Right, yeah. Oh, that's so good, I appreciate that. Um, why would you say, so many organizations kind of over focus on leadership and maybe under invest in systems? You know, I mean, what is the right balance to, if you walk in somewhere and you're like, "Strong leadership, poor systems," how do you kinda help them, like, create some equilibrium there?
Well, if you have poor systems, you have chaos.
Yeah, fair.
I don't care if you've got a great leader or a terrible leader. If you've got a terrible leader, it's worse. If you've got a great leader, it's a little better. But if you don't have systems to manage what's occurring, then you have chaos. So it's not hard to get someone to realize that, hey, let's work on your workflows. Let's use tools that exist out there and let's centralize comms related to that and all of that. See, the problem in a small company, it's one thing because it's you and 8 people, right? It's another when you've got 150 people and now you've got layers, right?
Oh, yeah, I can't even imagine. Yeah, yeah.
And so the challenge is your typical VP has a 2 year or less life cycle, right? So there's always this turnover that's occurring, right? And so if you don't have a good system, then that turnover creates more chaos.
Right, right. Things are lost.
See, the interesting thing about the military, which is the first element in my head that had to stick in order for me to see my model, your leadership rotates every 2 to 4 years, and that's designed, right? And so the military is a system that produces great leaders. It's not great leaders make the military work. It's the system creates great leaders because it's designed to operate without the leader.
Yeah. Oh, that I love that. That's definitely a goal for me because, like, we're looking not to make this all about me,
That's okay.
but, I mean, I wanna build this business so I can sell it, and I know that it has to run without me, right? So I have to have those pieces in place that it's not everyone turning to me, so this is really timely for me, I appreciate that.
Good. Good.
What are maybe what are some, for a growing business such as myself or other small businesses, what are some early warning signs that maybe the environment is becoming unwieldy? Like what behaviors or what is happening that someone should be, if they're not that self-aware, what should they be looking for and being like, okay, I need some help. We need to do this differently.
Has a particular conflict point arisen more than once,
Oh, nice. Yeah.
right? I mean, that's your clearest sign. You're like, I know we talked about this 6 months ago,
Yes, it's coming up again. Yes. Yeah.
right? It should never come up again, right? And what that means is you don't have a system that documented that, recorded it, created a policy and procedure around it, an SOP, and you're driving it forward, like, right? And so that's your clearest sign.
Yeah, if it's happening, frequently, or it continues to happen, okay. And, how can as a founder or a leader, kinda swing, avoid the swinging between being a micromanager and being too hands off? How can I would imagine it's probably setting it up in the systems and the processes, but what could be put in place to kinda get that again, getting that nice balance where you're not being overbearing, but you're also not just leaving them alone?
Yeah, I mean, therein lies it does. It's a very, very, very fine line, right? And so coming back to that, why are they working? Where's the ownership for them? Right. I've always told employees if I have to micromanage you, I'm micromanaging you right out the door because I don't want to micromanage you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create the management infrastructure that I can layer my leadership on top. I like to look at it this way. It's like baking a cake, right? You have to start with the cake before you can put on your icing. And if your cake is all bad, nothing you're going to do with that icing is going to fix it, right? It's just not, right? So you have to have a good, strong foundation. You've got to have a solid cake. And I call that management, right? You've got to build your management infrastructure so that you can then layer on your leadership.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. That's great. Let's pivot a little bit to technology and operations. As a consultant yourself, what kind of technology tools do you use to run your business, or tools that you bring in when you engage with a client? Like, talk to me about what your best tech stack is, what you're enjoying working with.
It really depends on what's already there. That's the thing about coming into a client. Like, what are they already using? And there's probably a good chance, especially for a small company, that they bought something, had a consultant come in and do something, and then that was years ago, and nothing's changed. Right. So what tech stack do I use? Personally, I'm a solopreneur, so my stack is pretty simple, right? I'm running off the Google environment with regard to all my information flow, and then I'm using an AI, three different AI agents for various tasks that I have spent a lot of time on prompt engineering to learn to develop. And then there's your typical, communication platforms. For a client, it's what are you doing or what have you like. If they don't, then we're going to talk about workflow planning. Right? That's the lowest hanging fruit besides communication is how are your projects? Every business has always got a project of some kind going. What is it? And how are you managing it? And if you're not, well, then now let's get you onto something like like Monday. Monday.com is a great tool. There's a lot of application with that one. It really depends on what the need is. My client uses a Microsoft operating system, right? And so the whole ecosystem they use, and then NetSuite is the ERP. And so I originally want to, and so one of the challenges with their workflows is a lot of times their workflow is initiated by a customer outside, right? They've requested a service. And this is a customer, not a prospect, two totally different things, right? And so we want the customer to be able to come directly in with this request. And there was too many people involved and it was slowing it down and all these communications. So I was forced to go to Monday because the Microsoft operating system is so closed, right? You can share a Google Doc with anybody you want. You can't do that with a Teams doc, right? Or an Office doc, right?
No, no, there's a lot of permission setting. Yeah,
Yeah, a lot of that. So we were forced to go outside because their stack couldn't accomplish the task that they need.
yeah, interesting. Yeah. You mentioned before with me about using a digital note system. How has technology maybe changed how you think, plan, and operate? Share with us your experience there.
Well, I used to, I'd be in a meeting, I'd be writing down on my journal. I would then take that, I would then type it up, right? I would then do whatever I'm doing with that. Maybe it goes into a presentation or it goes into a proposal or it goes into whatever. And so now all my journals are gone. I use a digital note taker. That information instantly flows into an app on both my phone and my laptop. And then I'm able to grab that, use it, break it apart, drop it in. Now, what I like about this is now that we've got summarization tools that are built into Teams and Zoom, um, note takers, we're able to then, I can now take what I've heard and cross check it to what I wrote to look for gaps.
Oh, nice. Yeah,
That's been very nice, right? Because I can only write so fast, and so not often, but sometimes I'll find a gap. I missed that. I didn't write it down. Thank you for reminding me of that little AI note taker.
yeah. Can you integrate your AI note taker into your digital note platform, or is the digital note kind of like closed system? Does it just go push out? Oh, I mean, can it pull in? I guess could you pull in another data source into your digital note taker? Push it. Yeah. Yeah. Won't pull. Yeah.
You can push it depending on what it is. It won't pull. And it's what I like about it is it's designed to be a journal. It's not designed to be an iPad, right?
Yeah. Yeah. See, I immediately is like pull all the data together.
Yeah, that's not what it's for. There are other tools for that. Matter of fact, I've got 2 hours planned to dig in with Copilot today to work on a reporting dashboard for my client.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. Nice. Yeah. No, that's a good point. Because I'm also a paper person, but then sometimes I'm thinking, can I switch? I haven't tried a digital note taker, but I see people and they're using it and they love it, and so maybe that's the. But I there is something about the pen to the paper that is, I don't know.
Well, that's what's so fascinating about it is this feels like it, and it has texture like paper. Like when my finger touches it, I don't feel it. It feels like glass. Yeah. So yeah, it's that tactile function of writing.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I forgot what was the brand. Which brand do you have? Which one is it?
Remarkable.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna check that out. Very cool. Yeah,
If you write, if you're a note taker like I am, it is such a game changer. But again, you got to look at it as just a journal, right? A journal that you can send the information to a digital format that you can access, right? And surprisingly, it can read my handwriting.
yeah, yeah. Exactly. That's funny because I also have poor. Well, I have been told I have poor handwriting, but we'll see. Um, what operational mistakes do you see business making when they're looking to adopt a new tech or AI, and maybe it goes sideways? Like how what's some tips to make sure like they'll have great adoption and it's the right tool? Talk to us about that.
You really got to dig down into your use case ahead of time. What is your primary? Why are you doing it? Because sometimes what you'll find is that it's true for any use case. You've got a series of variables you want to accomplish, right? And if you've done the analysis right, you have to weight them, right? They're not equal, right? And in the end, something has to be the number one. So you have to plan around that number one. Everything else becomes secondary, right? And so it's really important when analyzing whatever tool you're bringing in is to make sure that you've really understood your use case ahead of time, really determined it, broken it down, found your number one, and then built from there. Then the challenge for most people, especially small business owners, is you don't have time to go back to that process, right? Like you're like, great, cool, got the tool, let's rock, right?
Yeah. We just implemented HubSpot, so I know that feeling.
Okay, yes, you do. Um, And so now, right, to come back 6 months from now and bring in another HubSpot expert to help you with something it's intensive. It's capital intensive. It's time intensive, right? It's challenging to do. And so you want it to just work, but the truth of the matter is it never will do it. You always have to be considering and adapting and evolving, as you know, in the tech world. So there's no such thing as plug and play.
Yeah. No, no, it really isn't. Yeah. And I found with just we'll talk HubSpot for a second. It really is trial and error, and because it is probably a little bit, it was pushed down from home office to us. So, it was set up for us, but it can do so much. It's almost too power. For me, it's overwhelming. It's like I really just have to stay in this area and just get this area like nailed. And then we can like go and look at other things. But, so far so good. We moved from Salesforce and, I don't know, it seems I'm enjoying it, but I'm hopeful. We'll see.
Yeah, I think yeah, Salesforce is an interesting one. It when you talk about too much, right? I mean, I don't need all that. You know, we're here.
No, 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 exactly, and it should be I mean, that's the one thing I think with HubSpot, it is somewhat intuitive. I can kind of maneuver myself around, where with Salesforce as a newbie there, it was like, whew, it was not, I couldn't just click, click and kind of figure it out, but anyway, that's where
Right. YouTube is your friend when that happens.
exactly, exactly. So let's talk about a little bit about AI and maybe the future of work. How do you see AI impacting organizational culture from a systems or a performance point of view?
Well, culture is an interesting one because, I mean, obviously, I always say AI is not going to replace people. It's going to replace people who don't know how to use AI, right? And you're going to need a lot less of those people who know how to use AI because they just became 10 times more productive, right? And so from a culture perspective, there's that certain level of apprehension on, am I going to be the one who loses my job because Sally next to me is 10 times better at it, right? Chances are it will. Um, it's just operational reality, right? Why pay for 10 when you only need one? So it is an inevitability. We're going to get to the point where people have their own personal AI agents. I mean, what it took to write a computer program 3 years ago to now, I'm working with somebody. He's working on a virtual role play for salespeople in AI role play, and he's been at this 2.5 years. And he said, "Yeah, 2 years ago compared to what I'm doing right now, it's not even comparable." Like, I mean, he showed me his latest tool, and it's really darn good.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, we're almost there. And so that reality of everybody having their own ability to write their own computer program and not having ever touched code is just a fascinating concept.
Yeah. It levels everything.
Absolutely.
'Cause sometimes I would see engineers kind of, a bit of like, "I'm the only one who knows, no one knows," and kind of like hoarding that information and not necessarily sharing, educating, or whatever, and so that's not great for an organization, you don't want that, so I do like the level setting, um, component of that.
Yeah. It's a great equalizer. I mean, now anybody can access all the information. They just have to know how to, build the right prompt and agent to get there. And so when people, we will get to the point where somebody can sit down with a microphone and just talk to a Claude on it or something to help them develop this agent. And then when they're done, it's just going to work for them and with them.
Hmm. How should leaders think about AI? Should they think about it as a productivity tool, a decision tool, or is there something else, when they're thinking about AI for their organization?
I think they should always be looked at it as an enhancement tool. So a productivity tool, but I'd say an enhancement tool, right? You still need your people. If you don't, well, then unfortunately, you should probably fire all your people and just run your business with you and your computer, if that's possible. Fortunately for us, human connection still matters, right? And certain level decision making takes a particular nuance that a zero and one can't do, right? It's not a simple if then in many decisions we have to make. So therein will lie some differentiators for people, but in my opinion, it is an amazing enhancement tool. Learn how to look at it that way. Don't look at it as how do I get rid of my staff, unless your costs are out of whack and you're already trying to figure out how to save the company. If you're not, then look at it as how do I enhance the people I have? Of those that I have, if I, let's say I had 5 people doing a job and I now can build an AI tool that makes one of them as productive as 10, great. I wouldn't look at getting rid of these. I would look at it, how do I use them and enhance their abilities with this to make something better and greater?
Yeah. You know, um, we're going to pivot a little bit more now back to the leadership organizational because I'm so thankful to have this conversation with you because you have so much information. When you and I'm gleaming this all for myself in your experience, where do you see communication kind of breaking down the most in organizations? Or is it internal or is it external or how what's something that maybe we're doing that's not supporting strong communication? Maybe that's another way of saying it.
Communication is not speaking clearly. Communication is being understood, right? So the problem with most leaders is they're operating up here, which is why they're the ones owning the business, right? And they're speaking at this level to somebody who they know they've got their lane of knowledge, but they don't have these other lanes of knowledge. So the leader is speaking as if the person does, and there's a mass disconnect that happens, right? So always speak to the audience. Always speak to the person hearing it. And I'll tell you, Rachel, the best question you can ever ask is, what'd you just hear me say?
Oh, yes, have him say it back. Yeah.
What does that mean to you? How will you impact that? Right? So you're simply doing this because the problem is when we're speaking, our brain can only do one thing, but when we're listening, our brain's doing 5 others. It's just the way it works. Well, technically it's four, but the point being, it's multitasking, right? And so the only way to find out what they're thinking is if they're talking. So if you ever want to know So the number one communication thing is start asking questions more than telling. Sorry, I'm moving for my dog here. And and get to do that. And then again, develop a real communication strategy, right? So organization, departmental, team, one-on-one, make sure it flows. And as it flows, make sure that it is getting interprets the wrong, but translated into what does it mean for that person who's receiving it. You then got to make sure you've got a communication model that goes back up, right? Through both anonymous and attributable communication, right? You need to have both. And then you need to have a communication plan that goes side to side. And that's really where the workflows come in and these tools. But really that ability to standardize and think about how is your organization communicating across itself? Because if it's got to go up to you to go back down to them,
Yeah, that's not good.
and that's what was happening with my client. So it's really important to think of communication as a three-way model.
Yeah, I love that. If a business owner wants consistent results as they grow their team, what should we be focusing on first? The leader, the people, the environment we're creating. What's our priority?
The environment, the system, right, that people work within. If you were go to Barnes and Noble 30 years ago and went into the business section, all the books would be how to manage people. Now all the books are how to lead people, right? And I got a massive disconnect here with that. And the truth of the matter is humans are ugly. Life is ugly. We're messy, beautiful, chaotic human beings, right? And so you have to understand that. And so you have to build around that truth, right? And you have to build your management structure absent of personalities, absent of anything else, then XYZ, blocking and tackling, moving the organization forward. Then once you've done that, then you can worry about leadership development and that level of higher cognitive level of training and thinking.
Yeah. No, I love that. All right. So towards the end of my podcast, we do this rapid fire, cyber savvy rapid fire, where I'm going to ask you some questions like this or that, and you're going to just tell me what first thing that comes to your mind.
Okay.
Um, and I kind of know the answers, but we'll do it anyway. Systems or leadership?
Systems.
Yeah, there we go. Structure or flexibility?
They have to both exist. I can't break them, right? You have to have structure that has to be flexible.
Okay, fair. That's fair. Yeah, half and half. All right. Flexible structure. How about that?
There you go. Perfect.
Yeah. AI assistant or human intuition?
Well, I'm a big believer in data driven decision making backed by gut instinct. But in the end, I go with gut over data.
Yeah, that's fair. My next one was scorecard or gut decision. So now we know your answer there. Gut decision. Remote teams or in person teams?
I've been running remote teams since 2018 extremely successfully. The beauty of a remote team is you can get talent that you can't get any other way.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'm a real big fan of that. You just have to develop ways to bring them in person. You have to develop ways to strengthen culture through breaking of bread. There's nothing like that simple act. It's amazing. It has to do with the psychology of the human and our physiology and our cultural upbringings. That's really powerful. So amen on remote, figure out how to bring them in.
Yeah, I like that. Consistency or innovation?
Consistency. Innovation's cute, but if you're not consistently applying whatever, then great ideas falter by the wayside every day.
Yeah, I love that. James, thank you so much. This was such a thoughtful conversation. I love your perspective that sustainable success doesn't come from hero leaders, it comes from intentional systems, clear communications, an environment where people can actually perform. And honestly, that message is incredibly relevant for growing businesses, navigating technology, AI, and the team growth all at the same time. Thank you for sharing your insights, your journey, and your real world approach to building performance cultures that last. And to our listeners, if today's episode got you thinking about how your business environment, systems, and technologies are supporting or slowing down your growth, please check out show notes so you can reach out to Dr. James and he can help you. I'm Rachele Schainker, and this has been the Cyber Savvy Woman podcast, helping you stay secure, smart, and cyber savvy in your business and in this light. See you next time. Thanks, James.
Thank you, Rachel. It's my absolute pleasure.
The Cyber Savvy Woman podcast requires more than a conversation. It takes action, research, and collective wisdom. If today's episode resonated with you, we'd love to hear your insights. Join the conversation and help us shape the future together. We'll be back with more stories, strategies, and real-world solutions that are making a difference for everyone. In the meantime, be sure to subscribe, rate, write a review, and share it with someone you think would benefit from it too. Hey, thanks for listening, and see you on the next episode.